Julius Randle is done for the year. He's been out for a while with that dislocated shoulder. Now he's getting season-ending surgery. Logan, I know that you have been high on the healthy Knicks. Can they still make any noise without him in the playoffs?
I'm so devastated, man. I am so sad right now, dude. I love the Knicks. I love what they've been building over the past couple years. I love the players that they've brought in. Honestly, dude, I'm more bummed out about Julius Randle getting hurt than probably maybe even more than Malik Monk getting hurt, man. I'm pretty shook up about all this, dude. I think it caps them from having a real finals run, Eastern Conference or NBA. I had a really spicy take. We're going to do our top 10 contenders show soon, Carson. I had the Knicks as my number 4 contender in the entire playoff field with a healthy roster. Number 2 out east behind Denver, Boston, and Dallas. And I want to be clear about something. The Knicks are objectively better with Julius Randle, point blank period. They were 29-17 with Randle this season, a winning percentage of 63. They were 15-14 without Randle, 52% winning percentage. And specifically, they were 7 points per 100 possessions better with Randle on the floor, right? Jalen Brunson bears a massive responsibility for this offense, and Julius Randle just alleviates so much pressure on him. If that's taking post-up attempts, if that's getting downhill and weaponizing his body, and then adding in what he does defensively, he's really strong and stout and can take on these physical wing matchups. I do think they are a little bit more well-equipped to deal with a Randle absence, though. I know that Randle's disappointed in the playoffs before. We've seen him turn into a black hole, taking pull-up jump shots, missing all kinds of shots. I mean, he really disappeared last year. He disappeared as the number 1 against Atlanta in their first round series, and he just didn't pull his weight as the number 2 guy last season in 2 playoff series. But the Knicks get OG Anunoby and Bojan Bogdanovic. I think Bojan Bogdanovic is the X factor to the Knicks making noise in the playoffs. He's got to step up and pull a lot of weight offensively. But look, the Knicks are still a very big physical and athletic team. They're obviously less without Randle, but they're number 8 overall in defensive rating. They've been top 5 defensive rating over the last 15, and they're number 1 in rebound rate this season. Specifically, though, I think it's because you can trust Jalen Brunson. Brunson is one of 8 players, guys, in NBA history to average 27 points per game on 47 40 splits. Larry Bird, Steph Curry, KD, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and then Zach LaVine and
what was it?
Dale Ellis.
2 of 5?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you didn't set a minimum for that one.
He had that heater on him, though, man. He shot 40% from behind the arc. Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the greatest three-point shooters ever? Question mark. The Knicks are 15 points per 100 possessions better with Brunson on the floor. The difference between being the number 1 offense and the second worst offense in the league. He's just so reliable, so experienced. You just cannot take away how Brunson impacts the game. He's an elite pick-and-roll operator. He just gets downhill. He hunts shots. He's efficient from everywhere on the floor. It's sad. It's a great playoff formula. Brunson is your lead guy. They addressed their biggest issue from last season, which was perimeter shooting, adding guys on the wings or shooting better, adding a guy like DiVincenzo, adding OG, adding Bojan. The Knicks are going to be a really tough out. Brunson is your lead guy, a great defensive team. They improve shooting, but they're probably a first or second round exit. And with a healthy Randle, I would have told you they mopped Orlando. Orlando's not an easy out, man. If that's who they get matched up again. I think that's going to be an ugly, grimy series. And if the Knicks survive that, they probably could just get bounced in the second round in 5 or 6 by Boston. And it's a sad reality. I don't mean this as hyperbole. With a healthy Julius Randle, I really thought the Knicks could compete with Boston and take them to 7 or bounce them. I thought they matched up really, really well with Boston. And unfortunately, now that Randle isn't healthy, I think the Knicks are probably a safe second-round exit.
I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, if they're going up against Boston round 2, it's okay. So what are we really talking about? Mm-hmm. Because you're probably not going to go beat the title favorite out of the East unless you're 100% healthy, right? Mm-hmm. Championship teams, they aren't injured. They aren't missing major guys. It's just not how it goes. But I do think that they can like survive it and still be a very competitive team. Anunoby's obviously got to come back. Like if he's not 100%, okay, well then that's just too much for any team to overcome. But if he is, they've still been pretty good with Randle off the floor, and I think they have a really functional offense outside of him. Obviously, Brunson's still your main guy, and there's a lot of guys who maybe aren't the top creators but work really hard off the ball. And I think the defense and the size can still hold up for them. And I almost wonder if maybe leaving the "is this time going to be different for Randle" question unanswered could not be the worst thing in the world. I'm not trying to hate. I have nothing against Randle, but
hey, listen, we're good with Julius Randle. Not hate, but fair criticism.
let's be
We do
real.
lots of it.
I think his field goal percentage in the playoffs is like sub 35% all time.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty ugly. His bad series are like really bad.
And he's only had bad series.
Yeah, I mean,
he literally has. He's been so bad in every playoff series of his career. It's only 3, but he's been awful.
I think part of the plan for the Knicks, like I get, was, well, Randle has to be better this time. Like that's kind of what we're banking on, and we need to see that. And that now isn't a possibility for them. But I think if we're talking about can they go beat Orlando, it's like, yeah, they still can. It'll be a tough series. It'll be ugly, but I think they work really, and it's going to be a good matchup. Orlando works so hard defensively, and I feel like the Knicks work so hard offensively, and they're always moving, they're always grinding, and I'm excited to see that. So I don't think they're done necessarily, and I think they could still be annoying to the Celtics, but beating them would be pretty tough.
Carson, can I get a prediction for what you think Julius Randle's true shooting percentage for his career in the playoffs is?
Ooh, I'm going to say 46.
Oh my God. 46.2.
Yeah, I'm that one. Dude, that reminds me. I got a call from Nick from BDG today. They're playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire over there. It was right before this show. And I nailed the question. It was an NFL question. I won't spoil it if anybody wants to go see that video, but let's just say I deliver under pressure. Julius Randle does not deliver under pressure, though. And I do think that it is certainly significant to the Knicks that he is out, even though I am not a Julius Randle guy whatsoever, because I do think he has some problematic tendencies offensively, and he is an absurdly streaky pull-up jump shooter, but he's always going to take those tough shots whether he's making them or not, and he can be a ball stopper, and sometimes his playmaking and decision-making just fails him. But I still think having that second sort of high-end shot creator when he's on, what Julius Randle can be, having a physical mismatch attacking forward like that is valuable to the Knicks ceiling. You are always going to have a bit of a pendulum swing with Randle because of how volatile and erratic he is, but it definitely raised their ceiling. I do still like what the Knicks have, though. If OG comes back, which obviously is like the essential thing, it's impressive to me how competitive the Knicks have been without OG and Randle. I think they're 16-11 in games that Randle has missed this year, and most of those games are without OG as well. But when OG was out there, dude, like the Knicks clearly looked like the second team out east. They're 15-2 when OG plays. They have a defensive rating of 99.4 with him on the floor. Keep in mind the best defense in the league this year has a defensive rating of 108. And they had a plus 25 net rating in the minutes that he was on the floor. And he is obviously a world-class defender who is super versatile, can handle various point-of-attack matchups, and also bring some value as a secondary rim protector. Like, the guy is just a problem. He's quick, he's big, he's strong, he's got great hands, he's super long. He also really matters for this team offensively, though, just in terms of having another big wing, having another elite spot-up shooter, another good finisher around the rim. And overall, just that element of size has been so huge for the Knicks. It's like, we are going to bully you. That's particularly what makes them an uncomfortable matchup for a team like Boston. It's, hey, we are big, we are physical, we are going to crush you on the glass, we are going to trot out a front line of OG and Julius Randle and Isaiah Hartenstein or Mitchell Robinson. Like, that is a massive, massive team. And it's funny because now, with both OG and Randle out, they have gone like the complete opposite direction. It's like, okay, now they're starting Brunson, Deuce McBride, Josh Hart, and Dante DiVincenzo. And it's like, this team is playing small ball. And shout out, like Dante DiVincenzo is having a Steph Curry level shooting season. They don't want you to know the man's taking 12 and a half threes a game over the last couple months, and he's mostly yanging them. And Deuce McBride, I love. Like, his point of attack defense, he's a pest. He's a good spot up shooter. He's a good off-ball player overall, instinctual cutter. He's a capable secondary ball handler. I am not enamored with any team starting 2 small guards, but if you're going to do it, like, one of them has to be a dog defensively, and Deuce McBride is that. But they need OG back if they want to be a threat. They need that size. They need that defensive ceiling. They need his offensive play finishing and fit there. And if he is back, I still like this Knicks team. No, I don't think they can beat Boston. I think that they need the ceiling that having a second star shot creator presents there. But I would definitely pick them to beat Orlando. And Brunson still has floated this offense this year, man. With Randle off the floor and Brunson on, the Knicks still have an offensive rating of nearly 120. The burden on him is just insane, though. Like, they would need him to really go nuclear to put together like a multiple round sort of playoff run. But with OG, they are still pretty big. They're not as big as they are with Randle. They're not as physical, but I still like how they check out in those areas. They would have an elite team defense. I think they're still a really good rebounding team. They're a really good spot-up shooting team with OG out there, which is a huge change dynamic from last year where you had very spotty spot-up shooting. RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes went ice cold. Josh Hart went ice cold in the playoffs. Now, like, when you have OG out there and you have Dante and you have Deuce McBride, and even though Bojan hasn't been good, you have Bojan Bogdanovic, like, there's just way more shooting, which does make life easier on Brunson because teams can't just recklessly double and trap, and he can create good shots for shooters. And they have good depth, and they have a top 15 player and an awesome star creator who I buy in. So they can still win a series if OG comes back. I don't think that they can win 2, though, which is a bummer because beating Boston was always going to be really, really hard. But, like, there was a good stretch where I was like, New York very well may be the team that gives Boston the hardest series out east, even over Milwaukee. And I don't think they have that ceiling without Randle.
It's unfortunate, though. I wanted to ask you this. This Knicks team is, like, pretty great, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They're still sort of fringe contenders, even healthy, probably. But they're pretty well built.
Yeah.
How would you take them to the next level this offseason? Like, how would you go from here?
Carson says get rid of Julius Randle.
I mean, dude, like, that's always going to be the ideal outcome for me is, like, how do you upgrade Julius Randle to a better version of a similar archetype? Like, a second shot creator who ideally does bring size. Like, that's the thing. Randle provides a pretty ideal mold for a player. He's just not a good enough version of it. But I think that trading him is going to be pretty hard to do. But at that point, it's kind of like, you've done a great job. You've almost maxed out your value in terms of, like, these wings. I mean, the value that you're getting in terms of big play from Hartenstein, and hopefully Mitchell Robinson looks like himself again. He's back now, but he's playing very limited minutes, obviously, been out for a while with injury. Like, I love the construction of that team, but I still think they would need a more consistent second option offensively. And so maybe it is like some sort of, hey, star for star swap, but we're going to attach a little bit of draft capital to get off of Julius Randle. That's when I would be like, this team maybe could win the title if I trusted their second option more.
You know who would be a sick number 2, dude? If they could, again, I don't know how you pull this deal off with Julius Randle, but like Lauri Markkanen in New York, like,
it'd be amazing
alongside Brunson, the size, the floor spacing. Like, I think you're losing a little something physicality-wise, but Markkanen's so much longer and bigger. Like, you're not losing a ton.
Still a really good positional rebounder, way improved rebounder from when he was younger.
I just imagine, like, a guy like him off ball working while Brunson's getting into the teeth of the defense. I think that would be a
fantastic
sick duo.
It'd be fantastic. Even, like, we've heard the cat to the Knicks rumors. It wouldn't be perfect, but you maintain elite size, you maintain elite rebounding, you maintain elite physicality, and now you just have, like, a second option who I think is just significantly better and more consistent than Randle. So there are avenues. It's just going to be, does anyone want to take on Julius Randle?
How many years does Randle have? It can't be that many. Probably 2.
Next year he's under contract, and then he's got a player option the following year.
I think just 2 years, you're really not paying all that much to get off of him. I mean, 1 year
True.
of Randle, and then he's an expiring. It's like, all right. And Randle's not – he's not a positive contract, I don't think, necessarily. But he's not there's more negative players.
Oh, for sure.
As I'll put
it's
it.
not a behemoth.
Yeah. And it's not a huge – it's not like $50 million or whatever. It's
No.
30, right?
Yeah, it's 30. I mean, and that is the concern about like the Cat. It's like, okay, do we want to pay Cat $60 million a couple years from now? Not really. That's why Markkanen is literally the perfect trade piece, because it would only be one more year at this point, but you get him at $18 million. Like, oh my God, you're getting a top 30 player at $18 million.
The Jazz are going to ask for so much hypothetically back, though, man. You would have to attach, I think, a ton. I mean, that's a great question, Matt, that you bring up the contract, because then you question, it's like, because of his playoff shortcomings, because of the contract, is he just a negative asset? You know what I mean? Like, how much more do you have to attach to him in a hypothetical trade to get another star back? Because he's a star player, but, you know, the price point comes in, everything factors in. I wonder if he's an actual negative asset.
I think some, but a team like Utah would actually be excited to take on a contract like that. Like, they want to be paid to take on money. That's a good thing. That's also in the direction they're trying to head, on top of, moving a star player for a bunch of draft picks. I'm trying to think about who else on Markkanen's level or better is at risk of being traded, who's a big wing guy. And it's just not a lot of dudes. I mean, there's the Paul George rumblings, but it would maybe kind of feel like, how much longer does he have? Are you going to trade for him? And it's
but I would
to wind down for him.
I would still just way rather have Paul George than Julius Randle. I would take that even if it's for a brief window.
It depends on the price, of course, but it feels like you've got one big move in you left. Like, the thing for the Knicks to do is to make one massive play.
I just thought of this one. This one, he's not in the exact same archetype of Randle. What do you guys think about, like, could they get Mikal Bridges maybe? Is that too much? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to just think about other wing defensive guys that can work off ball.
He doesn't move the needle as much as the other guys. I just don't think he's on that same level as an offensive player. He would be a slight upgrade because of the off-ball value, because of what he'll bring if he's engaged defensively. But I'm not in love with that as like being, this is our move, this is what we're going to do. So, Knicks star talk. How are they going to land the big fish? It's eternal. So many future Knicks who unfortunately never were.
But this time it makes sense.
No, it does.
I think the Paul George stuff, I really do, where you have to be careful, is buying in on a guy who does not fit your timeline. And all of a sudden, like, George is starting to slow down, we know, but this is going to be our move anyway. We're just going to be aggressive. And then one injury happens, and all of a sudden, he's not at the level you need him to be to go win a title. And that's it. I think with Markkanen, it's like you can have an injury. Like, maybe the year after you make that trade, it doesn't work out, right? But you have multiple shots at it. I always think about those Nets teams with Kevin Durant and Kyrie and Harden. It's like, dude, they just didn't have enough goes at it. It's like you need the injury luck, and you have to be able to roll the dice a few times on that. So I would be worried about the Knicks sort of backing themselves into a corner that way. But it wouldn't be a bad move depending on how much you had to spend.
In spite of that, I think they should send Julius Randle back to L.A. to get LeBron finally.
Oh, I love that. I love that. LeBron literally would be the perfect Knick, though. Like, if they had LeBron in a sort of Julius Randle role, mismatch attacking, bullying people, I mean, he's just obviously so much better at it. Knicks could be the title favorite. They could. But for now, they have Julius Randle. And actually, they don't even for this season. He's hurt. So, New York, I love what you're building. It's just going to be a question of getting all those specific right pieces together and healthy.